Hello, chat, and welcome to another Bunchcast. Wow, it's that time of the week, chat, where we talk about some video game news. Today's subject of interest is going to be relatively short because I didn't bring a whole lot with me, and honestly, there's not that many people here, so we're going to just talk about one thing, and then we're going to move on and wrap up the stream. But it is a big and actually pretty important subject because it's becoming a lot more relevant in media as a whole, especially as of late. I mean, it's always been a prevalent issue. Todd Howard or Peter Molyneux or anybody telling lies about a game, that aren't true and things like that, and lies. And it's all about the power of honesty and why truth is important. It's something I hold to the core of myself, and it's something that I think a lot of people should. Being honest and being truthful is what sets you apart from everybody else in the industry. And to be frank, I hate to say it, but the reality is that only a handful of people are truthful in the industry. Most people lie. It's just what happens. It just keeps happening. It's constantly happening. It's an unending problem, and it's going to be a problem forever because guess what? People lie. Shocker. But it still does not excuse such behavior. Lying is still wrong. Lying is still bad. Lying still loses trust. And regardless of how many people do it, it doesn't make it right. And the reason why we're going to talk about Helldivers 2 today is that Helldivers 2 wanted to be honest. They wanted to be transparent. They wanted to tell people the truth, right? About what they would change, what they would do to the game. But we all know that that didn't happen. We all know that that didn't happen at all. They weren't honest. They lied. They didn't tell the truth. They obfuscated. They hid stuff. And they just constantly don't give us actual information. And what I'm talking about specifically, for those who aren't familiar or haven't been following it, now that we finally have time to talk about it, is basically Helldivers 2 has been basically stealth nerfing. Now, what is stealth nerfing? I did go over this because it took a while to just see what they were doing. Because people were saying something about stealth nerf, and I had to investigate it. And basically, now that I finally got time to look at it, they would buff things in a way that would counter every buff to any weapon. Or if there was no buff to any weapon, they would buff other things in other areas. But they wouldn't list it in their patch notes. And this is being dishonest. This is not good. This is lying. And what makes that bad is that it shows to the community that they're not willing to communicate. They also publicly admitted to lying that they had done it. And so they had admitted they had done it. And they mostly expressed frustration that they couldn't get away with it anymore. And it was like one of those things where it's like, the issue is that the issue is not you getting away with it. Like that's another story. The issue is that you've been caught and you need to set things right. And how do you set things right in a situation like this? Well, to be frank, it's quite simple. It's quite easy, right? What do? You just tell the truth. You're honest. You tell people what you did. When you patch something or nerf something, you just tell them the reasons as to why you did it. People may still dislike why you did that. They might disagree, and you might be wrong about the nerfs and stuff you did. But it shows strength of will that you were willing to tell people what you did. It's like, yeah, no, we're gonna change the stat here because honestly, I think it's gonna be a lot more fun, and I think you guys will agree when you see it for yourself, because that's how it should be, telling the truth, not lying. And that's one of the big issues here is that they've been kind of lying nonstop, and they've been kind of getting away with it for the longest time, and there's really been no repercussions for anything that they have done. And so now we've reached a point in Helldivers 2 where people don't trust them, and I see things that really piss me off personally. Is this article here? Helldivers 2 fans can jump into Arrowhead's next game, recognize the DNA at least. It won't be something that's too far off from Helldivers, says CCO Johan Pilestad, who's looking to continue the shooter's legacy. So the big issue I have with this, right, is that this is bad, right? What does this article basically mean? So let's read it real quickly, and you're going to see what it means. I don't even know if I need to fucking say it. It's no secret that Arrowhead Studios wants Helldivers 2 to be a forever game, even if it won't implement cross-progression, Destiny's social blah, blah, blah. However, its next game is currently in early production and won't stray too far off from Helldivers. During the Golden Stick Awards, Games Radar spoke with CCO Johan Pajestedt, who revealed that the beginning of production, the part that I love most, when you get a new team together, break down all the boundaries between each other, really get to the heart of who we are as people and what games do we want to make together. That's not really how games making works, by the way. So that's a bit more flavorful, but yeah. When asked what the development team sought to create, he responded, "We're looking to continue the legacy of what we've created already. It won't be something that's too far off from Helldivers, so all of the people that are massive Helldivers fans will be able to jump into the next game as well and recognize the DNA at least." Key verbiage there, by the way, in that statement. Jump. Now, it's not reading into it because words have meaning, all right? Or it is reading into it. But it's not reading into it too much. What does that mean when you read that? I know
what that tells me.
He's basically urging you right there in that statement to abandon Helldivers, by the way. Jump off of Helldivers. That's what that's actually translating to. And I can tell you why this is the case. And here's the issue. All right, there's so much wrong with this. So the issue with this is that Arrowhead Studios doesn't want to work with Sony anymore. I understand that. Much like Bungie didn't want to work with Microsoft at all. Sony and Microsoft are terrible fucking corporations. There's no defending either one of these rat bastards, right? But here's the issue. This means that they're going to actually be trying to intentionally sabotage Helldivers 2. I'm starting to believe that a lot of the issues we see in Helldivers 2 are intentional to try to shift people's interest into the next game. But here's the issue. The next game doesn't exist yet. And secondly, we know what the other issue is? If you can't make Helldivers 2 a good game, and you sabotage the game we invested time in, money in, like I've got 800 hours in it. I don't have the most hours, but I've got a decent chunk. 800 hours is nothing to seize at. I spent a bit of money on some super credits, but most of it I unlocked with just playing the game. And I've invested a lot of time into this game. And this game was going to be... I want this game to be a game that's forever. You know what I mean? Just like in the way Unreal Tournament 2004 is forever. You know, it's still there. You can still go play it. No one's going to stop you. But the issue here is that by retroactively buffing and debuffing and nerfing, and it shows a lack of understanding of what the game is. There's another big yubnubber who made a thing is like Helldivers 2 is like the game for nobody. Like is what they're basically turning it into, to paraphrase. And that's kind of true. There's a lot going wrong here. And that issue is it all comes down to honesty. The lack of transparency and continued communication with both the community as a whole. I'm not talking about content creators. Fuck content creators. Content creators can literally sabotage a game by just being retarded. That has happened, by the way. I'm just talking about being honest and communicating with the general community of the game. Not one specific set of individuals or special snowflake group, brigade, whatever. Literally communicating and telling people what they want and asking, what do you want to see out of Helldivers 2? A general survey, things like that. What do you, like, directions? Now, those, you know, and you should be trying to aim for what people want, right? It's obvious Helldivers 2 has a vision, but it's obvious that they didn't know where to take that vision. They had a general idea, but they were actually far off the mark. They thought that Helldivers 2 was supposed to be a, what's the word? Like a everyman soldier simulator, but it kind of isn't. Because here's the issue. You don't understand your own game, Arrowhead. What is a Helldiver in the setting of Helldivers 2? You aren't just a generic soldier. You are a Helldiver. What is a Helldiver? A Helldiver is elite special forces. They are the best of the galactic empire that is Super Earth. They aren't just fucking bumfuck little, stormtroopers. They are elite troopers that are literally tasked with special ops missions deep behind enemy lines, basically disrupting enemy communications, enemy resources, and things like that, where they are needed most. They do the most damage. You aren't a SEAF trooper, or SEAF trooper as we call them. SEAF troopers are your everyday troopers. You want to make a game where you play like a guardsman or like that style of guy, then you're going to have to make a spin-off game where you play as a SEAF trooper. Because the reality is that Helldivers are special. They're not fucking, what do you call it? Just ground troops. You have your own personal fucking destroyer. Your own personal. So the issue is that the setting they've made, the game they have made, and everything around it, they don't really understand that you're supposed to feel like you're elite troopers, right? You get to custom pick your equipment. You get to choose your operations. Like, think about that, right? Any of you who served in the military know this immediately. How many of you little fucking grunt boys ever got to choose, like, okay, I'm going to be stationed in this part of the Iraq invasion, and I'm going to be, I want to be in a tank, and I also want to bring, I want to bring a law, and you know what, I really like the Beretta. I want one of those. And like, okay, that's not how that works. Also, I'd like a latte, you know, it's like, you're not going to do that. You're not gonna do that. It isn't about what you want. But Helldivers are so elite and so specially trained that they can literally determine where they go in the warfront, anywhere, and choose what missions to take, choose what equipment to bring, and call down orbital support and stuff like that, and be extracted, having a personal ship to pick them up and get them out of there every time with Pelican. And they've got their own personal air support fighter with Eagle 1. You got your own personal fucking dropship in the form of the Pelican. You got your own fucking destroyer in low orbit providing air support for you. Do you see how ridiculous that is? You aren't just a meat grinder trooper. You are the elite. You are special forces. You are literally too important to not give you the best of the best in terms of equipment. And so the issue is that Helldivers keeps trying to nerf weapons and make you feel more like a grunt. But the issue is that you're not a grunt. You never were. And I've seen this a couple times in posts from Pilestat and others where they talk about like the grunt fantasy, or they talk about, not grunt fantasy, but they talk about like, oh yeah, the Helldivers are just meat troops. Like I saw them basically say that in like a Twitter post somewhere. And it's like, no, that's a fundamental misunderstanding of your own setting. You literally wrote the Helldivers that they are the best of the best. They are elite. They may not be like, you know, super soldiers and augmented, but they're just fucking humans that are so goddamn well trained. They'll kill hundreds of bots. They'll kill hundreds of Terminids. They'll kill hundreds of fucking squids. And they can do so much damage just as a human. That's kind of what makes Helldivers 2 cool. Helldivers are cool, and they're more interesting than Space Marines because they ain't, you know, augmented or nothing. They're just humans. There's nothing really special about them beyond their training. They're just dudes. I'm only human after all. Yeah, pretty much shit. And so that's what makes Helldivers 2 kind of special. It's not like Halo where you're Master Chef and you're going around, you know, cooking up a world of hurt in your power armor with your state-of-the-art fucking shield that protects you and stuff like that. No, you're just a hell dunker. You're just a dude. You're not special, but you aren't, what's the word? You're not like special in the sense that you're like the one super duper soldier, but you are part of an elite force. An elite peacekeeping force. Quotate. Like literally.
I would say it's more kind of like Band of Brothers type thing.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's just like super duper disconnected with reality. And the issue with this disconnect and understanding of what makes Helldivers 2 great is kind of leading the game awry. But the key issue above it all is the lack of transparency and lack of honesty. No more lies. No more obfuscated like stealth buffs on enemies, because that's what they were doing. If you buff an enemy, state it in the patch notes. Be honest. And then give your reasons for why you did. In fact, they don't even have to go as far as to give you the reasons. They just need to put it in the patch notes, all right? You don't have to explain yourself when it makes every change. That's ridiculous. But you do need to explain what you've changed with the game I bought, all right? I gave you money. I gave you more money afterwards as well. I upgraded to like the super duper edition or whatever the fuck because I enjoyed the game so much. And I gave you hundreds of my hours. And I played with my community and I encouraged people to pick up this game. And tons of people bought it. And I expect the bare minimum of transparency, not just for myself, but for the entire community. Everyone deserves it. Everyone deserves it. Everyone deserves it to be honest. Just tell you. If we buffed an enemy, by the way, we buffed this enemy. We increased his armor on his arms and we increased his armor on his chest. That's it. The fucking hiding stuff shit has got to stop. Because that shit is literally killing my interest to play this game. You want to know why I haven't streamed this game in a while? Because I get too sad when I look at it. Because I'm like, it's not the game I remember. It's still fun, but they gotta get their head pulled out of their ass. Because I'm waiting for them to do that. And I know that they fucked up because the whole live service model doesn't work in the end. For at first, I was like, the Helldivers 2 might be the first live service game that actually worked. It doesn't. Live service games do not work. My opinion has since changed because they have proven that it is impossible. The best game to ever have a live service model was Helldivers 2. Indisputable in my opinion. But even so, in the end, it amounted to nothing. The constant need for war bonds creates more weapons that we don't need. Often we get like guns that don't really fill a role, and if they don't fill a role or serve a gameplay function, it's a worthless piece of shit. That's what you've just
At
done.
best, there's side grades, and so many of
We
them
don't need side grades. We don't need...
Yeah, so many of them feel the same to you. Like, there might be someone that's like, well, technically this gun acts this way. It's like, yeah, sure, you can say that, but it doesn't feel that way.
We're reaching the point
There's
that side grades
also-
become a serious problem, though.
Yes, there's also the problem of, oh, they released a Warbond that's got this really good gun in it, and then they nerf it later.
Yeah, the coyote.
or no, better yet.
Like, yeah, they literally did that with the Coyote, which was, by the way, a stealth nerf on a gun. They didn't record that.
They didn't record
Which also
it.
leads to now, they released patch notes. You can't trust that the patch notes are actually accurate.
They're not reporting everything they're changing. Because
They're
yes,
reporting things, and even sometimes it's just inaccurate.
But the gun didn't receive any nerfs, if I remember right. It was the enemies and how fire damage worked that was nerfed.
No, there was a direct. They revealed later on, Gibbs.
Oh my god.
A reworked how firework was directly
Yes.
because Coyote was doing too much
Yes,
damage.
that's what I just said. But they didn't directly nerf the gun itself by stating anything mechanically. They did a bypass by going around and nerfing how fire worked. Because that got around it without them, making it obvious. And so they're stealth nerfing.
They can technically say they didn't touch the gun.
Yeah, because they didn't technically touch the gun. They touched its mechanics, like by proxy.
Its core fundamental mechanics, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why everyone's mad. Or another stealth nerf thing you'll see is that they'll change how enemies' health systems work, so that it counteracts the weapon they just created.
Health and armor. It was actually kind of funny. I didn't know you were going to be doing this particular topic, but I was watching some videos on the changes that Helldivers have been doing to like enemies, where it's like the chargers, like when you break their leg armor, even when it's broken, they now have more armor than they used to, which is why the chargers feel more tanky than they used to, because they just have more armor now, period, even when their armor's broken. And it's like, oh, great, thanks.
Yep.
Really feels fucking great when you have like 4, 5, 6 of them just fucking charging at you. And it's like, this used to feel better to deal with, and it's like, because it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They're falling back, I think, to the idea
Good.
that they want you to use stratagems to
Which
deal
was
with deal with bigger enemies, which just makes higher difficulties hell because, oh, I used my railgun
Stratagems.
strike to kill that thing. Well, now I have to wait 2 minutes, but now there's 3 more on top of me.
Yes.
I will always say this. Stratagems being used to deal with elite enemies was always a stupid idea. I don't care if it was their vision. It was a dumb vision.
Stratagems should be
They seem
used
to
to
have
deal
gone
with
back to that,
clusters. Also, the other thing we need to talk about is the Stingray engine. We do need to talk about this because it is an issue.
Yep.
They want to increase the difficulty. And so in order to do this, because remember, why are they doing what they're doing? Well, I don't think that they're doing it just for shits and giggles. I think that they're doing it because they're intentionally trying to figure out ways to increase the difficulty without solving the engine issue. The reality is that the Stingray engine is untenable. That because they've said this themselves, right? They wanted to expand the player count to 5 for 5 Helldivers, and like having team operations where multiple Helldiver teams are working
multiple
together.
squads dropping in on the same map, yeah.
And it's like, fucking do it. Upgrade the engine. Literally. Sony. Literally go to Sony. Make it a public thing. You did it before. You brought it into the public light, and that made Sony really fucking mad. But just say, it would, if we had the funds and finances you could just go to Sony and say this. If you give us the resources to make a new engine, custom built from the ground up for Helldivers 2, that we can just transition the code onto, not using any other fucking engines, but a custom engine built specifically to do the features, mechanics, and core mechanics of everything we want to do with Helldivers 2, we will print you so much money that you will never think that your golden age has ever ended. And they should literally just do that, because that would literally solve everything. And you know what Sony will do? If Sony says no, they're just retarded. But then it's on them, and it's not on you, Arrowhead, because then you did what you had to do. You asked to make things right, and then you basically did everything you could do. That's on Sony at that point. Do the right thing and literally just ask for the resources for the fucking engine upgrades. Like, get Sony to get you a specialist team to put together a custom built engine, and literally talk to the custom engine team to be like, okay, we need it to have terrain deformation, we're going to need certain mechanics with like destructibility, we need it to be able to handle large amounts and volumes of enemies, and also handle multiple groups of players moving around, so our director can keep spawning enemies adequately. Because this is a problem that the Stingray engine has now. You have 4 players on the max tier difficulty, you split up and all 4 do separate things, the game's actually easier. Because only 1 or 2 players can be really getting fucked with, because the Stingray engine cannot process that much shit.
It can only track one person to fuck with at a time. So sure, the one person that it decides to fuck with is going to get really shit on, but the other 3 will be fine.
Yep, and all the other guys got to do to break that thing is just like run. Problem solved. But yeah, the thing is, these problems are solvable. We could get bigger maps. We could get aircraft. We could get more Helldivers. We could get actual frontline battles with Siege troopers going to town, you know, with like massive armies and multi-faction fighting, NIDs fighting fucking, you know, beep boops. Like, we could have all these things. There's literally nothing stopping us except for the fact that they need to literally build an engine. It's one of those things that they can fix.
They could, but but it seems like they're more interested in promoting and working on their new project.
Hold on a second. I noticed something in this article, because we got into discussing that paragraph there that was very important. But let's read the next paragraph. That's good news for most dedicated fans of the co-op shooter, but it's anyone's guess what the new project could offer. At the very least, it will be multi-platform, as confirmed by Arrowhead CEO Shams Jorjani earlier this year. A listing last month for Senior Systems Designer also confirmed work on a new IP, which will be built in the Unreal Engine. That is disastrous. The Unreal Engine is probably one of the worst engines on the market. Look no further than Arc Raiders. The Arc Raiders isn't a particularly good game, but it is a game in which it fills what I would say that medium itch, where it's like, there is no really great games on the market right now for like big multiplayer things, because Call of Duty just like face planted. Battlefield 6 is kind of waffling around with unable to understand its own success. It's like, people want bigger maps, so we make smaller maps. It's like, oh,
let's make Warzone now. Let's just copy Call of Duty.
It's like, oh my god, like you're fucking, like everybody's fucking up at the same time. Everybody started off really good, and then everybody started to just start fucking up because like nobody had any clue. That's basically what 2025 turned into. A great year for games, but also a weird year for games. A lot of companies were just like, oh, we did a good thing. I don't understand how I did it, so I'm just going to start spurging the fuck out. And then... and that's basically led to the situation we're in right now. Where all these games hit off running. They did a great job. And they completely forgot what made them successful. Like, it's like they fucking didn't remember, or they just don't even know. It's like, what? How did we do this well? It's like, what do you mean, how do you do this well? Just do what you did earlier. Don't change nothing. The problem is that you're trying to change the way you're going about this, and that's fundamentally changing everything. It's like, because I've got a couple theories with the Helldivers 2 situation, right? Johan Pilestad, right? He stepped down as CEO to become CCO to basically go and unfuck Helldivers 2, and he did. He basically got Helldivers 2 to unfuck itself after the patches were out. In fact, Helldivers 2, after he had done that, reached a state that it was better than I think it was even at launch. It was that good. And then it was like a progressive downward like trend after that, where it was like up and down a
Because he
little
went
bit,
and
but
started working on the side project.
because he went and started working on a side project. And because he went and worked on a side project, it's like he didn't understand that maybe, or not necessarily his fault, by the way, because that's his job. It's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to spearhead projects for Arrowhead. But the issue is that whoever the fuck is working behind this guy doesn't fucking know what the fuck he's. I'm so mad. I'm sorry. I shouldn't swear as much, but
The person
he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, so basically, the person who was in charge of these updates and patches and stuff was taking the direct game in a very bad direction, almost anti-player direction, because they kept just nerfing what people were doing because they wanted people to play very specific ways, which is against how Helldivers is.
Yes, Helldivers is a player sandbox, not a player. Like, when you take away the sandbox elements, it's not a sandbox anymore, is it? What makes Helldivers 2 magical is it's a sandbox.
So piles that came in set the direction back to, okay, no, make it fun for the players, and fix the balance, and he started fixing the balance again. And then he stepped away, and now the other person's probably back at it, and he's just going back to the way it was.
It's like he didn't learn anything. So honestly,
But I want the grunt fantasy.
But you're not a grunt. You're special forces.
No, you're not. You're not Seif.
See, originally,
so
we had that interpretation when we started playing. Like, yeah, we're supposed to be squishy because we're just humans. Well, yeah, we're squishy, but we're also special forces. We're literally the best of the best. We're not just some grunt. You're a Helldiver.
Even though, like, sure, some of the marketing, you could say they're trying to trick people into joining, but it's like, no, like when you actually play the game, no, you are special forces.
You have a special planet just for training you on. Like, they have special ships that they're assigned to. They're so important. They get put into cryopods so that they don't age, so they can be basically called up when their time is ready to serve. And they're literally sent on suicide, basically, missions, with still the intention to extract them if possible.
But it's like, complete the objective first, and then try to get home.
Even not like if it's not even if you complete
If you fail the objective, they'll come and get you.
Yeah.
You're that important. You're that.
So a bit of the problem here is there's this massive disconnect with the developers on what they think their game is and what the game actually is, because what they think it is and the way the game presents itself is they're basing it off of their own internal idea of what the setting is. Because the main issue here is they don't actually play their own game. I recall seeing that, and one of them say, like, yeah, they don't play the game, or they don't play it on high difficulty. Like, the few times they test things, they don't ever do it on higher difficulties.
That is very obvious.
The big thing is, when it comes to game design, right? The normal difficulty should be, or the player designated. Okay, so this may sound dumb to other developers, but because it's obvious. When you make a game, and some developers are stupid. Bungie, I'm looking at you. But when you make difficulties for your game and you have an intended difficulty, you should literally call that either the intended difficulty or make it known that it's the intended difficulty, or normal. Halo fucks up because Halo calls heroic, so it sounds like it's hard, but it's actually the intended difficulty for the experience. Hold on, let me finish. Because it's the intended difficulty for the experience, and that's what it should be about, not it being normal. Normal is actually not what you're supposed to play Halo on. You're supposed to play it on heroic, but they don't tell you that.
I thought they did in like the little subtitle, like where it's like if you hover over heroic, in the little blurb, it's like this is the intended experience. That's all.
So it said that in the original games. In MCC, it doesn't.
Okay, that's why. Because I want to say I could have sworn I remember when I first booted up
in the
Halo,
originals they did, but here's the issue. Yeah, they removed that, and this is the issue.
Okay, then
or wait, no, sorry, it's not Bungie. It's Myth, or it's 343.
Halo Studios.
Or Halo, whatever. Same thing. But yeah. It's basically just them. Also, Shadowfox donates $10 and says, seems most people that makes games that have special forces seem to always forget that almost all real-world special forces can punch well above their actual weight class in combat. That's true. Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, when you're playing as a Helldiver or an ODST in Halo, you're not just a Marine. You're not just a Seif Trooper. You are very powerful. There's a reason why they give you a dedicated destroyer as fire support. And
let you pick your own missions because they trust you enough to, it's like, no, you will go where you're needed.
You know where you're needed. You'll go there, yeah. God damn.
But once again, that's the disconnect. The game presents it as this, but they're in studio lore of what the setting is entirely different.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they don't play their own game or actually look at how the game presents itself. So they don't even see that. Also, Gibbs, you stopped streaming to the Discord.
No, Polly donates $5 and says, but Kibbs, they're supposed to be silly and incompetent against enemies that mow them down. Hashtag babygate, hashtag sandwich, hashtag cook Kibbs. Thank you for the donation. That's the issue, right? They're not supposed to be that. But I already said what I already said. Okay, more pointless DMs from people. There we go. Alright, close that. Let's see. But yeah, so I don't know. When it comes to the whole thing, it seems like it's just a lack of understanding compounded by not only lack of understanding what makes the game good, but a big focus on the developers at Arrowhead talking up this new game they're working on. But here's the goddamn issue. I don't give a good nickel about your new game, alright? Here's the issue with that. Your new game, its reputation is tied to Helldivers 2 in my eyes. If Helldivers 2 sucks or is in a not good state, I don't give a shit about your new game. Your new game is shit too, as far as I'm concerned. Like, and that's what people are going to say. People are going to feel that way. People aren't going to buy it. It doesn't matter if it's actually great. It doesn't even matter if it's the greatest game ever. You may still get like a successful game, but you are losing sales because of your dishonesty and your lack of being truthful. And like, I used to have a lot of faith in Helldivers, Arrowhead, because they always seemed to know, they made mistakes, but they were always willing to fix them. But like, there comes a point in which you've like, I've been patient and I've been like, you know, willing to listen, but now I'm at the point now where it's like, okay, I've been patient, I've been willing to listen for the last few years now, and like, you keep repeating the same mistakes. Like, you're kind of burning up that goodwill that I have, and I know many others have, and people are getting fed up with it. So you need to fucking fire some people, and I'm not kidding, fire them, because anybody who thought it was a good idea to tell you that we shouldn't tell the truth, fire them. Dishonest pieces of shit. You don't deserve to work in the games industry. You don't deserve it. Like, if you're gonna lie, then you shouldn't have a job. You just don't. Like, you've lied, and then you lied again, and then you lied again, and then your big thing was that, oh, we wish we got away with it. We're mad that we got caught. That's not fucking okay. Like, oh, you're mad you got caught. Wonderful. Not, oh no, you know, maybe we should change our way. I'm upset that we got busted. What the fuck? What the fuck? That's terrible. You know what I mean? It's just not okay.
Yeah, actually, they've not even apologized.
They never did.
Lying and tying this.
They never did. That's why I'm so mad. That's why, like, this whole Bunchcast is dedicated to Helldivers 2. Because I love Helldivers 2 a lot. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I am a big fan of Helldivers 2. But I'm not going to fucking sit there and watch as my favorite thing gets destroyed for the 30th time, alright? I saw that with Halo. I saw that with everything else I liked, alright? I'm going to be vocal about it. I want Helldivers 2 to be great. So make it great. Make it happen. I don't care how. Listen, pay attention to the community. Like, care about the game. Understand what it is you're making. You need people on your dev team to play the game in every difficulty. That includes the easiest. That includes the hardest. Because you should have a fundamental grasp of every aspect of your game. You should be playing it all the time. I wish I could do that with the indie game that we're making, but I can't yet because we're not even at that stage. But you are at that stage. You've launched your game. So you have literally no excuse. It's literally part of your job as a game maker. As a game maker, you should be going above and beyond, and you should be spending time working on it when you have free time. And I'm saying outside of work too. Guess what? I'm an indie dev. I've done it too. You go above and beyond. Just treating it as a 5 to 9 job ain't acceptable. Or 5 to 8 or whatever the fuck it is. I don't even know. But it's not okay. Like, you need to actually put effort into it. You need to play all the difficulties. You can be bad at it, that's fine, but you need to understand what makes it tick. There's many game makers throughout the history of game development and the world itself, today, even indies, that are bad at their own games. That's fine. That happens a lot. The Creeper World dev, he's bad at his game.
I was just about to say the
Factorio
Creeper World
dev,
dev admits it.
Factorio dev, he's not as good as like everybody else. Like, there are players that are just better than him, and that's fine. That's okay. We're not asking you to be like the top ranked leaderboards.
Yeah,
We're asking
not
you to understand
you
your
to
own
be
game.
top of the leaderboard.
Just understanding the basic of that. Rue Man George has not understanding what players want versus your vision is what killed BattleBits' miracle success. Yeah, BattleBits swooped in out of nowhere and then just dominated the Battlefield market and then just evaporated. It's just like, yep, they didn't understand it. It's like lack of understanding, lack of like getting it, right? Lack of understanding what you're making. It's good to have a vision, by the way. I'm not saying that developers shouldn't have a vision. Have a vision, but don't nail yourself to that cross. Because that's something I learned when working on my game, and I learned it relatively quickly. That I have a vision of what I want my game to be, but there are sometimes certain areas where you have to ask yourself, is this mechanic more fun, or is this mechanic more fun? You may have designed the mechanic on your right hand, but the mechanic in your left hand is better. The sad reality is the mechanic in your right hand must go. It isn't as good as the one in the left. Because what matters most is not the fact that you have darlings. It's the strength and the willpower to kill your darlings and put them to the sword as quickly as possible. As soon as something better crops up, you replace it. I run my studio like Roughnecks, you know? You have it until I find someone better, you're dead. That's what we got. You need to treat it like that because that's what game making's about. It's about making the best thing possible. And the reality is that because here's the first thing, right? When I got into game making that I learned, for those who aren't familiar, you've heard me mention this a few times before, but GDDs, right? GDD stands for Game Design Document. A game design document is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, by the way. It's usually used for bigger teams. It's a document that staples out the entire vision of the game, and it's then distributed amongst the team members, right? So that everybody can read the GDD and go over the notes about what the core objectives are. Usually for bigger teams like 100 plus or like 50 plus, where you're getting to the point where it's hard to communicate individually, right? Because you've got a lot of people working on this game. Because you all need to have an idea of what you're making. The issue is that, design philosophy, though, of the GDD is that the GDD should not be, how do I put it? You should be, it's a good, guideline, but it should be viewed as a guideline, in my opinion. And there's different philosophies on this, by the way. But my philosophy on the GDD as a whole is that you should have a vision of what you want to make, but you should be flexible enough to make course corrections so that in order to achieve perfection, you are willing to let things go. The micro squares, something I came up with, if it comes to it, to the sword it goes. If it doesn't prove to be valuable, it's not worth keeping. If that ends up being all of my mechanical designs are bad and need to be thrown in the garbage and we just use Robins instead, then so be it. Because part of being on a team is understanding that you're all working towards a common goal. My one issue I see with Helldivers 2 is it kind of feels like, well, this is my idea, and Johan Pyostad's idea is different than my idea, so I'm going to try to steadily change the game back to be what my idea was. It's like, no, that's petty and petulant. It's okay to... What makes a game developer great, or someone great, is that acknowledging when somebody comes with a good idea and rolling with the great ideas. That's what makes you great. It isn't your own personal ideas that make it. It's the execution of good ideas that make it work. Not your own personal idea that's kind of crap and isn't well thought out. Shadowfox donates $5 says, funny thing is there are a lot of ex-special forces dudes that would love to consult on the abilities and gear they use to help make games better. Yeah, no, there's actually a lot. You can find people like that. Let's say we did...
Even in film.
Let's say we wanted to make a space game, right, chat? Let's say we're all working together on a space game. Maybe it's like Battlestar Galactica or something. It's got spaceships and missiles and ECM warfare and stuff like that. We should probably reach out to some naval people and see if they'd be willing to help us come up with some inspiration. Now, remember, don't let them take over the game design. Good for those. Make sure you have a vision, right? If you want your spaceship battles to be old school dreadnought warfare, like what Star Wars is, then you should probably stick to that design philosophy and be like, okay, how does dreadnought stuff work? But if you want more realism with how ships move in space, maybe I want dreadnoughts, but I want it to be in space. And it's okay, You can have these things. You just need to research it. There's a couple ways to go about researching something you want to make, right? There is the personal work you put in, and not every developer can go and get time to find somebody who's a special forces dude or a naval ops dude or like a space engineer who's literally knows like how fucking physics and like that stuff works. Sometimes you just aren't going to find people like that because it's hard. There may be people willing to do it, but it's a lot of logistics to set up. But you should be doing the bare minimum, which is what does a writer do more than anything else? You're either thinking about writing or what you're going to be writing, or you're going to be researching it. You're going to spend 90% of your time doing that. When it came to like us writing that 13-page episode for Red Sun Dream, like I spent weeks thinking about it and like researching things and like establishing things. And that's what I did. I didn't spend hardly any time writing. Like right now, I wrote the first third of Embers of Fear, and I have been thinking about writing the next part, but I haven't started for a week because I need to plan it out. You need to make sure that you have an end goal and you're connecting everything as you reach that point. It is a art that takes a considerable great deal of time. All great things cannot be just thrown in the microwave and set for 2 minutes and then, done. Sometimes you're going to have to do a little bit of special extra legwork. You're going to have to do a little bit of, mixing in a bowl, a little bit of, stir fry. It's going to take a little bit of work, but it's going to be worth it at the end. You need to be willing to jump through those hoops. And what worries me about Helldivers 2 is they're not playing it on the hardest difficulty. They're not trying the other difficulties. They're just playing the difficulties that they're comfortable with. And that's fine. But you need to understand the higher difficulties. You need to be understanding what likes that, about what makes people like that, right? There are different ways, and people consume things on different levels, right? Every game is consumed on a different level. All of you play games differently. Every single one of you. None of you play games the same as each other. Some of you might be similar, but you all enjoy different aspects. Some of you, maybe you enjoy the stories and the atmosphere, or some of you maybe just enjoy the atmosphere. Some of you may not even give a shit about the story. You just play it just to play it because you're bored. It's to keep you entertained or to get some escapism because something's not going okay in your life. And that's okay. That shit happens. That's what video games are for. But you consume it on a different level, Some of you game all day. Some of you have got wives. Some of you got children, or husbands or whatever. And you got like kids and you don't have time to game all day. And that's okay. That happens. But you want to make sure that that time you spend is good and you consume things on different levels. Some of you consume for story. Some of you consume for gameplay mechanics. Some of you do for all. Some of you just like the music. And some just like to do it to play it because it's part of the social like connection of humanity, right? You use it to talk with your friends about it because they're playing it too. We all consume things on different levels, and we all enjoy different aspects. Some of us enjoy playing games on easier difficulties. Some people enjoy the maximum difficulties. Some people enjoy hardcore runs and permadeath and Iron Man. And some people just really like that. Other people don't. And there's no right or wrong in any of these cases. You bought the game. It's your game. Do what you want with it. I don't care. You own it. That's the philosophy we should have as game makers and designers. You, the player, enjoy games on different levels. There are more linear games than others, but they can still be enjoyed on different levels too. Nier Gestalt is a very linear RPG. You're not going to be making like branching decisions for the most part. You're just going to be playing from beginning to finish, but there are different weapon choices. Every game has choices in it of different degrees. Some of them might be narrative. Some of them might be little choices. Some of them might be, do you want to dodge more? Do you want to block more? Do you want to attack like with this weapon? Do you want to use this weapon? Or do you like heavy attacks? What kind of combos do you like? And so no matter what the game is, when you think about any game, all games are made up of hundreds, if not thousands of choices on different levels on how to play them. Do you like to play with the controller? Do you like to play with the mouse and keyboard? What do you prefer to play with? Some people really love controller for whatever reason. I don't get it, but they just do. They love just leaning back on the little sofa and just getting all cozy up, eating some popcorn, playing some video games, relaxing. People consume things on different levels. And it's important as a game developer, as these guys here, to understand that people enjoy things on different levels. That includes difficulty. That includes different weapons. And so you should make every weapon viable in its own right. It may have like a gimmick to it or something of that nature, but it needs to perform some sort of role and purpose in that game so that it has some sort of validity. The issue with like the war bond system is that because they've mandated that they're going to produce war bonds, these microtransaction things every couple of months or so, It just means that they're going to constantly pump out war bonds. But what if we don't need new guns for that? What if we don't want new guns like that? What if the game's got plenty of guns already? What happens when we have too many assault rifles? What happens when we have too many SMGs? You know what I mean? Because it's going to happen. But at some point, there's going to be a point in which there's going to be like 20 fucking rifles. And it's like, okay, how many of these are fun? How many of these are viable? And how many do you actually want to play with? And how many of these that nobody plays with? Because for a while, there are weapons in Helldivers 2 that only like a handful of people play with them. And it's not because they enjoy them or have fun with them. It's either because they're completionists and they're trying to complete all the stars for the guns, or because they have yet to figure out that the gun is just not fun to play with. Because there are just some guns that are just not really interesting, that people just don't play with. And there's a lot of liberators that just kind of feel that way. But regardless of that, these weapons shouldn't be bad. These weapons should be fun. And so understanding what makes a game fun should be understanding that when you make something, you should try to think of why somebody would like that, right? When I do game design stuff, here's what I do. And other designers and developers, you can let me know what you do too, because there's no one right way to do it. I like to think of different approaches to problems, and how many approaches can there be, right? If you have a building in a turn-based tactics RPG, how can that building be interactable? How can the player engage with it? Is it destructible? Can they go inside of it? Can they fight on the ground floor? Can they go upstairs? Can they push people out of the balconies? Can that matter? Can you shove somebody down the steps? Like, how can we tie the environment to the gameplay and make it part of it? And then how can that tie into the toolbox that we made? Well, we've got a fire mechanic. Maybe we can set the building on fire. Well, is that possible? Would it be good? Is it fun? Some mechanics might be bad, you know? Maybe doing that for some reason makes the game not very fun because of how you have the fire set up, it just ignites every building on fire and now you're just dead and it's boring. It's like, well, good job. You just ruined it. Or maybe fire spreading everywhere is just cancer because not every building should be dry as, tinder. But maybe they are. It is one of those things where you have to factor it case by case basis. And this is the core philosophy that I have always personally held. You should always be looking at mechanics on a case by case basis, because no general broad sweeps, because everything must be investigated. Whether it's a one simple attack, it must perform a function of some kind. What is the purpose of the fireball spell for this faction? What does it do mechanically? What does it offer to the player? Why would they want to play with it? What does this spell do? What does that do mechanically? Is it fun? Am I making a fun game here? Or am I making a mechanic that's annoying, right? Like, there are so many games that have annoying mechanics or mini games that are just unfunctional. Do we need a mini game to pick a lock for a door? The answer I personally hold, and this is again case by case, is no. I find mini games to be a waste of development time and resources when you should be focusing on the core game design. Because mini games, while they're there to sort of offset the thing, they often feel like these tacky little things that aren't very fun. And if you spend more resources and time working on the core parts of the game that make it strong, and the better parts, rather than wasting time on lockpicks and stuff, I think it's more fun. It's keeping the focus on the fun parts of the game rather than the hacking mini games. But some people like the hacking mini games. Some people like fishing mini games. You know what I mean? We all consume things, like I say, on different levels. And it's important to remember that, chat. It's okay to, enjoy what you enjoy. Just because you have a friend that likes doing something a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it that way either. And this is the lack of understanding that Arrowhead is showing. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what people enjoy and why people enjoy things the way they do. You need to play the game with the people that enjoy it and actually talk to them. You need to communicate, because as humans, we communicate with each other by talking to each other. And as we talk, information is exchanged. As information exchanged, we gain new enlightenment, a new perspective. This lack of direct communication by the developers is not good. Now, I do know that the developers for Arrowhead, I do know they watch people's streams. I don't think they watch mine. I don't care if they do. But they do watch people's streams, and they do watch videos on critiquing the game. But that isn't good enough. I'm not saying you need to reach out to YouTubers and content creators for your balance. That's a terrible idea. Because remember, just because they have a big speaker and they're on a soapbox like I am right now, doesn't mean we actually know what we're talking about. You need to be literally talking to as many people as possible, not one select group of individuals. And the reason why I mention this is because other developers have done this in the ARPG genre, action RPG, like Diablo-esque games, where they would just listen to the content creators that stream their games like for a living and just only those games, and that's all they do. And like, of course they know our game super well. They know it well mechanically, but they may not understand what makes it great, or they may not even understand what needs to be done to make it better or fix it. Just because somebody plays a game a lot doesn't mean they know all the answers on how to make a game good. This is why you need to have a vision of what you want your game to be, but also be flexible to hear criticism and try to adjust the course so that your game can reach its maximum potential. I know that I didn't expect me to be talking about game design philosophy today, but it kind of has to be, because it feels like this particular subject that Helldivers 2 is dealing with is the issue. It's a lacking of understanding of what you discovered. Like, they wanted the grunt fantasy, and that's clear because we know that by what they have said, right? We pieced that part of the puzzle together from what they've talked about, the overall game design choices that they choose, and so we know that that's what they want to be. They want to be a grunt fantasy. But here's the issue. The lore and the story doesn't match up for that. Not only does the lore and story not match up because we're special forces, but neither do the mechanics. We're not just a grunt. We have our own super destroyer. We have our own air support and fighters. We have our own personal dropship. We can have airlifted in vehicles at our leisure. Troopers and regular infantry will follow our orders if ordered to. If we tell some group of infantry that we encounter in a city battle to follow us, they will follow us and they will fight to the last gasp around our position. They will hold. That is how venerated we are. And it's also based on how NPCs react to you. They salute you, they revere you, they talk about, oh, like how great it is to see you and stuff like that, because like you're that knight in shining armor. The game you have made is not the game you thought you were making. And you've kind of forgotten that. You've maybe listened to some YouTubers talking about the grunt fantasy, and even I, when we first started playing Helldivers 2, was like, oh, it's like a grunt fantasy game. But as I played it over the hundreds of hours, I was like, no. We're not grunts. We're special forces. We always have been. And so it's a lack of understanding about what the game's about and what it is we are doing. And this is what Arrowhead desperately needs to understand and basically disillusion themselves from their own disillusionment, if that makes sense. They need to wake themselves up from their own stupor because they're in a situation in which they're doubling down on a direction that's bad. And they need to do the right thing. What is the right thing? It's a thing that's scary and hard to do as a developer. And what is that? And it is, because I know that for a fact because of how many developers don't do it. We made a mistake. You know why I still like Paradox games? You know why I still give Paradox my time, even though they're a greedy little fucking corporation? The one thing Paradox does that no other company seems to do is honesty. They're pretty goddamn honest. Not only are they honest, but when they make a mistake, what do? They apologize, but that doesn't mean much. Apologies are just talking. But they act. That's what sets them apart. They act. They patch. They change. Are they perfect? No. But the fact that they go through the motions of doing it makes them why I stick with them. Why does every other grand strategy game not do that? I don't know. But they don't. And because they don't, Paradox has a monopoly. Look at Creative Assembly. Creative Assembly may have had a monopoly, but they don't do what Paradox does. They don't listen. They don't talk to their audience.
They actively hate their audience.
They completely attack their audience. They do the exact opposite, yes. And they don't even fucking play their own games. They don't even know about their own studio's legacy, by the way. They literally tell you, when they tell you this is a new mechanic, they genuinely believe it's a new mechanic. Because they don't actually play the previous titles. They actually
don't know.
Yes. And we know that from insider leaks that they don't play their own games. And because they don't, nobody in their studio knows what the fuck they're making anymore. And that's why Total War sucks ass.
Hey guys, we have a new mechanic. Family trees. All the old Total War players. The fucking blank, cold expression with like a grayscale.
Yeah, because they said that for Total War Attila, by the way. And Shogun 2's had a family tree, and that wasn't that long ago.
Several donations, and I think we missed one of Polly's ones before.
Yes, we did.
Okay, go ahead and read them.
So before, Polly donated $5. Also, if their next game is really good and amazing, the Helldivers 2 situation establishes that they may make it awful soon after. Then, he says, now for $10, so many devs don't realize that listening to and balancing your game solely based on the top 0.5 to 2% of your player base runs the risk of alienating the other 98 to 99.5%.
Yep.
No, hold on.
Then Shadow Fox
wait.
donates.
I want to respond to these. Don't just keep reading them because I have to respond to each one. Remember, because they paid. So the big thing there is that yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why I mentioned like don't just listen to the YouTubers. Don't just listen to me. Don't give me special access. Don't give other YouTubers special access. We don't deserve it. We're just people. The big thing what you really need to do is you need to have an open discourse, and this is a problem a lot of games developers have an issue with. They look at YouTubers and us content creators as if we're some sort of like free marketing thing, or like we're like the paragons of like the thing, and people do elevate us and put us on pedestals, but that's a problem of our own communities. We're not special. We're just we just so happened to be retarded enough to talk to our microphone and stare at a fucking screen all day, all right? Like, that's what we do for a living. You should also be listening to everybody else, not just the YouTubers, because the reality is I'm just one guy, and chat, you guys know me. I have opinions that you guys don't agree with all the time. In fact, I play some games that you guys don't give two shits about, right? I know it. You know it too. You don't really care for some of the games I play. That's okay. You know, that happens. You still hang out, we still do stuff. But that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't mean I know everything. Like, my builds that I choose in Helldivers 2 aren't as diverse as everybody else's. I do have like 4 or 5 builds I like to play with, and then I've got like 2 or 3 that I sort of experiment with on occasion. And that's it. I'm not that crazy when it comes to the builds, and I don't use the entire kits and arsenal and all that stuff. It's just not, they're just not all appealing to me. And that's why it's important to not just invite someone like me or anyone else for that matter, because we don't actually engage with every part of the game. There are some stratagems I just don't use. I don't use smoke. I don't use smoke at all. I never use the smoke grenade. I don't use the smoke airstrike thingy. I just don't care about smoke as a mechanic. I also I never use hardly ever use the guard dogs if it's not the laser one. I just don't care for them. I don't really like them that much. There's some turrets I just don't use either. I just don't care for them. Don't like them. But other people use them all the time. And see what I mean? Like, the issue is if you just talk to or listen to one person, the only thing and only weapons that will ever get love will be the weapons I talk about. You know what I mean? There's some like criticisms I do have, right? Like, the reason why I can't enjoy the flamethrower the way I think it should is because the flamethrower, for whatever reason, they don't know what flamethrowers are. And this is something that shows a key misunderstanding about weapons. Flamethrowers in most video games are interpreted as gas weapons. But historically, flamethrowers are what? They're liquid-based weapons. This is a fundamental like misconception that's been like in the games industry for fucking ever, by the way. And Helldivers repeats this problem. Not only that, but it also repeats the same problem that flamethrowers do in most other games. Not all, by the way. There are some like Rising Storm that treat flamethrowers correctly. But in this particular case, flamethrower in this game, real literally, it has the range of like a stick, and it also doesn't behave like a flamethrower. It doesn't arc like a liquid because it should be. You should be like literally glazing the ground with this napalmy liquid. You're
This
not.
gel.
Yeah, you're not. And that's the problem. What you should be able to do is like arc the weapon and like literally goop up the area with burning gel everywhere. And it should also have its lance extended by at least 50 to 75% roundabout.
Yes, it is way too short.
It's so short as a flamethrower weapon. It's so short. It's a good weapon and I love them, but they're so short ranged that enemies can literally charge you and leap at you within range, and it'll just ignite you on fire. That is why I really dislike the flamethrower. I want to love it, but for whatever reason, it fundamentally isn't behaving the way a flamethrower weapon should behave. It's literally not behaving correctly. And that's my problem with the flamethrower weapon. It's not functioning like a flamethrower. Now, see how I'm going to know lots of details about how to fix that weapon? Because I'm interested in it. Now, if you ask me about the plasma weapons, you're going to hear crickets, because I don't really engage with the plasma weapons because I'm not a big fan of plasma weapons in Helldivers. See what I mean? There's some things I have knowledge on, and there are other things that are completely blank. If you were just to listen to me, the only thing that would be improved would be the flamethrower. And the plasma weapons would now suffer because of it. That's the issue. This is why you need to listen to multiple people that have different interests, because certain people have more interest in how plasma weapons work, right? I know that plasma is like a is it a liquid or is it like a gaseous weapon?
It's technically its own state of matter.
Yeah, it's like its own like thing. And so plasma weapons work differently because I'm not super acquainted. Because again, I'm more interested in the flamethrower weapon than I am the plasma weapons in Helldivers. And so that's the issue. You can listen to somebody on something, but if I were to give you my opinion, and so, some people would just tell you what they think are, well, maybe the plasma weapon should shoot like more like plasma bolts faster. It's like, okay, but should it? You're asking somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, right? I don't really play with plasma weapons. You know what I mean? And that's the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is just lack of understanding. And this is why the developers, I think, are only listening to a handful of people, because we know that they listen to YouTubers. And this goes back to my previous point. Because they go back to looking at YouTubers all the time, and they've confessed that they did this, what that means is that they're only getting some feedback. And I'll be real with you, not to be mean, but a lot of the YouTubers in the Helldivers community will just kind of repeat what each other says, and they don't really have their own opinions half the time. It's sort of like they'll just repeat what they see on the Reddit forums without actually having their own like real big opinions. Or they're going to take that sort of middle of the road stance where like, okay, I'm not going to be too biased and give my opinion here. And so I'm just going to kind of take the most milquetoast approach rather than saying what I actually think. Because I know most of you are holding back.
They all well, also YouTubers will try to say positive things because then they'll get, stuff from the developers.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like the issue is that no YouTuber, and if the community would ever listen, but they won't. But like as a YouTuber, it doesn't matter. I don't need special access. I just need you to know that I'm going to tell you my opinion, and you may not like it, but I'm going to tell you the honest to God my opinion, and it might be wrong, but I'm going to tell you what I think, not because I want to hurt you, but because I want to help you. I want your game to be great. I want your game to be amazing. And if that means I'm wrong in the process, so be it. I don't care. I'm just going to say what I think because I hope that maybe something will resonate, because clearly the status quo is not tenable. The path we are going isn't working. What you're doing isn't working now. It's clear that we must make a change, of course, right now, or Helldivers 2 will continue to decay into a bad state. And as that happens, Arrowhead as a studio will suffer. And that's my opinion. I think that if Helldivers 2 isn't great, in a great state, and in a perpetually great state, that will be bad. That will be bad for Arrowhead. That will be bad for the future game, because you are going to lose and gain sales depending on the status of Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 blew you into the limelight. Nobody remembers Magica that you made. Nobody remembers the first Helldivers for the most part, even though Helldivers 2 is called Helldivers 2. Most people don't play it. Most people haven't. And I know that because I've spoken to most chatfishes that have. And I know that as well as because as the gaming market has expanded, more people play. If Halo 1 launches today, it will have more players than ever did in its original like launch. If it was to launch in the same climate, if that makes sense. Because there are more people in the games market now than there was 20 years ago. It's just the market grew. The population grew. Also, some people got old and stopped playing games. Some people are getting into playing games. People come and they go. That's how it goes. Also, Shadow Fox donates $10 and says, it's the same problem that I have with shotguns in games. They don't act like real-world shotguns. I know what you're saying there, and thank you for your donation. Shotguns are one of those things that some games treat them like amazingly, like Blood. Oh my god. Or like Doom with the super shotgun. Like some games treat shotguns right. And then there's like Halo, which treats shotguns fucking terribly. Like that's not how shotguns work. But I will say that I think Helldivers treats shotguns pretty well. It's one of the few games I've played where I'm like, oh my god, the shotguns don't feel like absolute trash. Because usually it's either one or two things. Shotguns are too powerful or shotguns are garbage. And it's hard for it to actually just be like shotguns are good. Because the thing is, shotguns, yeah, they shoot like a lot of pellets and stuff out there, right? Or they can shoot slugs.
The spread isn't. The spread is not so bad that after like 15, 20 feet, you're basically only getting hit by one pellet. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you read Shadow Fox's latest donation?
Yep, I am. I like to answer every single one. Remember, chat who pays gets big kib answers. Big thinky. Unless they say chat kib gay, then.
I also have quite a few things I wish to say over things you talked about now.
Okay, 1 second.
Yep, and there was also some other stuff I saw people commenting when you were talking about other stuff, so I wanted to bring that up too.
Okay. Normally, when I talk, I actually don't stare at chat because if I look at them too much, I'll get distracted because I do have ADHD.
We know.
So what I'm actually doing is I'm staring at my mouse cursor on the right screen because I'm trying to keep myself focused because I struggle with paying attention because I got to organize my thoughts. Like I'm staring at it right now. So next donation, let's read that one from Shadow Fox, and thank you again for your generous donation. If you as an actual dude who used a flamethrower in World War II, they will tell you that more enemies died from lack of oxygen than the actual flamethrower itself. Thank you for the donation. Yes, that's also true.
That's specifically when they
Caves,
would
though.
flamethrower like bunkers.
Bunkers and caves, yes. Because
it would
sucked out all the
eat
air.
up all the oxygen, so asphyxiation would be the biggest cause of death.
Mm-hmm. They died from lack of oxygen in bunkers cases. In trench lines and stuff like that, it was a bit different. It was toasting people out. It was washing the literal line of things, and it would also cause people to run. But the big thing with flamethrowers to remember is that flamethrowers in Helldivers, mechanically, there is no oxygen deprivation mechanic. I know that because we've all played it. There's no oxygen mechanic at all. So what it should do is it can still do what it does, but it should just burn creatures, like just like glaze them, and then basically literally just extend its range. But that's my opinion on the flamethrower. I think the real problem with the flamethrower is that it needs to be an arc weapon, and it needs to be a liquid weapon, and it needs to have its range extended. I don't even think they need to give it more damage.
Half.
I don't think they need to touch the damage. I think the damage is fine. I think that would make it better.
Now, an example I wanted to give in regards to developers not listening to the players or just being pig-headed and stubborn, that how they this is what their game is and this is what they want the game to be, despite the player base wanting and saying the game is entirely different. Look at Absolver, which was a game I absolutely adored. I can bring it up if you want a link to it.
It's on Steam, isn't it?
It should still be, I think.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend no one buys the game.
Online melee action.
So, this game, to give a quick overview of it, basically it's a third-person fighting game with lock-on mechanics, and the crux of it being you create your own moveset. And you have like 4 different directions, and you actually create a moveset, and there's like set styles that have some effects, and your effect that have some like special abilities and stats. But the point is, that's the crux of it, is it's making your own custom thing. And this is just showing basically the new DLC. So, they created a semi-interesting world, and they created this kind of, not quite open world, it's kind of open world the same way Dark Souls 1 is, where it's just a set map that you can go around. Explore. Yes, but like they're all linked together ultimately.
Yeah.
But the PvE was actually pretty fun. And like it had bosses, it was very, very short though, was the main problem. So they designed this game, and what they wanted the game to be is a purely PvP focused game. Here's the main problem. The game starts you off with the PvE because that's supposed to be your tutorial. And that was really fun. And you could do it co-op, and like people would show up in the world, and when you get to different zones, you could fight other players, or you could work together. You can also just private the zones so that you don't have randos. So that was really neat. But the core of the game, they want to be matchmaking PvP. So immediately the issue is the game didn't have dedicated servers. It was peer-to-peer. And the netcode was very bad. So the PvP didn't work well. The player base proceeded to tell them, hey, we actively tell the devs, we really love the PvE, can we get more PvE content? Like, when will you address this? The devs spent almost their entire time since the game came out, until they released the DLC, arguing with the players that the game is PvP focused, you need to worry about the PvP, not the PvE. Not actually develop anything, and then they would just nerf mechanics to facilitate what they wanted people to do in the PvP. But they didn't actually add any content until the DLC when they finally admitted, okay, we need more PvE content. They added a DLC half-assedly, and then dropped the game. They added a DLC much too late because they were too pig-headed that the game is a PvP matchmaking game,
So
not
we
an
can go
open
to
world
a
game.
modern game with this actual problem. Because there's a
Yes,
far
Dune
better
Awakening.
example of this in the modern
Well, my
age.
point is, this is a game that is dead and gone now because of that.
Yes, but I think we should stick to modern references because it'll be easier for chat to understand them. Dune Awakening is currently suffering from the exact same problem, and it's a lack of commitment and understanding with what they've made. It's also, Dune Awakening suffers from a slightly other problem. It's that they have this absolutely like tunnel vision game design where it's like, it's going to be a survival crafting RPG thing where you can build cities and you can play with your friends. And it's a lot of fun. Dune Awakening is one of my favorite survival crafting games. One of my favorite. But my biggest problems with it is that the end game is terrible. The end game is like, and then all of a sudden it's PvP. It's like, what? But the game...
And nothing
Desert
but.
with entirely different server infrastructure, and each zone is actually its own little thing that you have to transition between zones as you fly through, and it causes like they designed Haga Basin, which is really well done and really interesting, and it's a lot of fun going through exploring. But then they want you to focus like that's supposed to just be the beginning and midpoint of the game. The entire late game and end game is supposed to be deep desert,
And
Which gets reset every week.
which is supposed to be like the MMO aspect of the game.
and
like
it's like it's not very good. Like can you have fun in the deep desert? Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Whenever we did the big carrier group operations, they're a lot of fun. But you know what's funny? Most people don't engage with those. Most people don't play that. You know what the actual deep desert is for the majority of players? It's a
Ganking.
couple of people trying not to get ganked. Like two to three people trying to either be ganked or not be ganked. And the problem is that the entire game, the 60 to 70 hours worth of content that gets you to the deep desert is not PvP orientated at all.
And then they tried to have well, you can pretend to be loyal to Atreides or the Harkonnen and wear different skin. It's like, okay, but that doesn't matter because you don't have like IFF anyway in the deep desert.
And so because
and it's all
there's two big there's so much mechanically wrong with this. So firstly, the Lands Rod. The Lands Rod, this thing needs its own bunch cast, but we'll just throw it in this one too because I can't be fucked. There's so much topics to move through. But yeah,
there's so much wrong.
So the big problem is the Lands Rod. The Lands Rod system is trash. Why is it trash? Because it incentivizes factions, right? What's factions? Okay, Atreides or Harkonnen. Picking a side and basically being on the Atreides or Harkonnen side. Why is that a trash mechanic? Because the deep desert doesn't adhere to this principle. It's in the deep desert, it's free for all. Okay, well, but
guild versus guild.
But you just said that
Not
it was
even that.
faction versus faction, right? And so now we have a free for all in the desert, and it's not even guild versus guild; it's free for all. Like even your own guild members can kill each other. It's free for all in the desert. It's a fundamental fucking lacking understanding of what the fucking game is. So,
oh yeah, you're right. That's true because I was doing the build with the Mentat.
You had to try not to kill each other because you could only be a
would
party
actively shoot other party members.
Yeah, it would kill your own teammates.
Which is so because like that completely just negated the build I was going for.
And they were actively not listening and like disagreeing with players when people were saying we need this to be like make it so I don't like it's actually
bare minimum
team-based.
Don't shoot my
and the response
group
was
or my guild.
no, it's if Deep Desert of PV is free for all. They just stick their head in the sand and go la la la.
Yep, the issue with this game desperately, I can tell you how to fix Dune Awakening. It's actually pretty simple. There's a couple of solutions, and we'll talk about each one. The first solution is basically addressing the deep desert problem by creating a PvP war zone area where it's just like, okay, there's the free-for-all zone and then there's the deep desert's PvE. That's what we call a band-aid. That's not really good in my opinion, but it's better than what it currently is. The second solution is to basically redesign the deep desert to, and this is going to take a lot more work, to be factional entirely. if you're members of Atreides, you cannot fire on Atreides. If you're members of Harkonnen, you may not fire on Harkonnen. They are friendlies, and doing that would be considered griefing, and if reported, people should be banned for basically griefing allied troops. There you go. That solves that problem. The other solution is to, and the much preferable one, would be a complete redesign of the game. The MMO, in my opinion, aspect has failed.
It did.
Not only has it failed, but I think it's going to kill this game. So my solution that I'm going to propose now is the radical option. The radical option is radical, but it will probably be the best option in the long run. You need to redesign the game with a massive overall patch that basically turns the game so that people can host their own private servers with their own friends, and then you need to focus entirely on PvE content and just drop the PvP altogether. This means adding things like deep desert guild factions that are entirely PvP based. Guild factions will spawn onto the map and they will build little bases, and you can like beat them up and they'll lose resources, and they're entirely AI run, and that's it. Like it's how you're gonna have to get around that. It's the most radical solution. It'd be a nightmare to do, but you're gonna need to make the deep desert PvE focused. Like there's bases that you can destroy that belong to NPC factions. There's reputation out there, and then there's like maybe the Sardaukar occasionally patrol out there or something, or some PvE faction and like PvE events and stuff like that. And it's just PvE. Drop the PvP mechanics and double, quadruple down on the PvE. That's how you save Dune Awakening. The PvP crowd, because I've interacted with this game a lot. I have a good couple hundred hours in it.
They were, not gonna lie,
but
kind
only
of cancer.
Only about 120 of those gameplay hours I have on this game are PvP. And I can tell you right now that the PvP crowd was the first to abandon this game almost instantly. And not only the first, but those that are left are honestly people that are very, very toxic. So like the only thing they're gonna do is they get a kick out of basically making people have a miserable time, and so they're gonna push people out of playing the game, and they're gonna kill your player base, and that's what that's gonna do.
They're not there to harvest. Yeah, they're not there to harvest spice. They're not there to do like.
They're there to get your reactions in the chat. They love that.
Yeah, that is it.
I had to.
They was specifically.
Yep, I had to tell our guild. I had to tell our guild this because sorry, Chatfish, but sometimes you're little goobers, and I need to put you on the right path. But when we were playing, when we had our full guild, and it was a lot of fun. There was fun to be had, but you do not talk to them. Like I remember having to tell you guys that because some of you guys would rise debate and it's like, nope, shut the fuck up, don't talk to them. Literally say nothing. We are ghost fish, and I kept saying that. Like we don't exist. We don't talk. Because the minute you talk to them is the minute they get excited and they get a rise. And then when you all shut the fuck up, when I finally told you to, you little shits, you know what happened? They started getting angry and salty. Because instead of getting a rise out of anything they did, you know what happened? They started to turn on themselves and get spiteful and angry and miserable. And then that was when we had fun. That is when the game got better. You know why? Because we just became them. Instead of farming us for salt, they were getting farmed for salt the entire time. So much so that people were literally afraid of us by the time we left.
You know, and ironically, I think we were the scariest guild, bar none, on like our cluster.
I'm pretty sure we did, mostly due to the fact that we were super organized. Like by the end,
relatively speaking, yes.
We had fighter wings, so we had wing commanders, and each wing commander had a wing and would report back to me directly. We went because of how the game is designed, it incentivizes you to get sweaty, and so we said, fine, we'll get sweaty.
Yeah, which I hate, by the way.
And when we did, you know what happens? We weren't like a Zerg swarm like every other yub number that played this game. We had dedicated fightercraft wings. We had dedicated patrol patterns. We had, entering and exiting IFF and confirmation stuff, and like all sorts of things set up.
If one wing gets attacked, do not fucking enter the swarm because you're just going to get shot at.
Yep. When one wing is attacked, that wing is on their own. But you will fly at support, and you will engage any other groups that come in. By the end of the game, we reached a point in which we stopped trusting anybody in the community because we tried to adhere to factions, but because of how the game is designed and how much petty drama happens between different groups, because when you make a game like that, that's what happens. Just nonstop drama. That's all it is.
So many poaching attempts.
Yes. So what we ended up doing is we just if they aren't us, kill them. And so
Which made it super simple.
anytime we encountered anyone, we just killed them. Because you can't trust them. You can't, because of how the deep desert is, you literally have to kill them. If you see a random, kill them. You see a random little ship, kill them.
Doesn't matter. Atreides, Harkonnen.
Kill them.
Are they flying your clan colors specifically?
Kill them.
No. Kill them.
If they're not part of our clan, kill them. Kill them, kill them, kill them. And at that point, you know what happened? People stopped going to the deep desert because we dominated it. And then we got bored and we left.
It's a sad thing, but we basically turned into the bullies because that is what the game incentivized.
It's what the community also turned us into. We tried to do like the diplomacy system, but they literally just were assholes and like sniping. And because it was that way, like I just don't want to engage with it. It's just petulant community drama and stuff like that. And that's the issue with Dune Awakening. A great game buried by bad fucking terrible in-game choices. The Deep Desert is genuinely garbage. Genuinely garbage.
Also, the world map is just entirely unnecessary.
I agree.
The Haga Basin
it is a
like,
waste of it was a waste of development time to do the world
I'll
map.
be real with you. I think they should make it entirely single player. I think they should make Haga Basin a little bit bigger and just add both cities to that map, and then just add like a little deep desert area that just changes.
Or
it could all be in one map.
Make them on the same map. You fly off the north end, you go to Arakeen. You fly off the south, you go to the Harko village.
Yeah, something like that. And just tie it together because the whole overworld
left
thing
or right
pointless.
is just deep desert.
No, it is actually just a waste of time to go to the overmap. Or the world map, whatever you want to call it.
Now, another thing chat was talking about, and I want to list an example of this, of a studio that is doing this, and it's advertised that they're doing this, is getting feedback from experts when you're looking at, certain mechanics and ideas and you want your game to feel, like we were talking about special forces, and you mentioned about space stuff, or like ships, talking to like people who had military experience with ships and like radars and stuff like that. A good example of a studio actually doing this is The Expanse. What is it, Osiris something?
Yeah, so there's a game that's coming out that looks actually kind of good. And it's coming out by a studio that I don't really like because I don't like any of their games. It's Owlcat Games, and they kind of suck. Their games are ass. But
their board games are ass.
Because all they do with their video games is it's mostly just the tabletop, and like Rogue Trader is just ass. Because Rogue Trader's tabletop mechanics are bad. I'm sorry, Fantasy Flight Games, but you make terrible pen and papers. Oh my god. But yeah, so they're finally making a real game, like an actual video game. And it looks pretty interesting. And they're doing like the research in it, and this looks like basically a Mass Effect-esque like is what I will equate this to, because that's kind of what it is. Set in the Expanse universe. And it actually looks quite promising. This is coming from somebody who's critical of Owlcat Games because I think their games are bad. The balance is bad.
This is their first time they're not just making board game, but on PC.
Yeah, it's actually got fucking gameplay. Is it just a cinematic? I think it's just a CGI cinematic. Yeah, no actual gameplay here.
The latest video they put out of the dev diary shows actual gameplay. Which, of course, would probably be... Well, that's right there, actually, would be the link to it.
One of the biggest fears of an astronaut doing extravehicular activity, or EVA, is somehow becoming detached and floating away.
Floating.
Hi, I'm Leroy Chow. I'm a former NASA astronaut and ISS commander. Owlcat Games asked me to help them to create what it's like to live and work in space, and then it's really a challenge to take that experience and make it into a realistic game, and that's where their team stepped in.
We wanted to strike the right balance, realism grounded in science fiction, not simulation.
During real spacewalks, we actually use tethers to keep ourselves attached to the vehicle. In a reactive game, that would be too clumsy, and so mag boots is a creative way to kind of compromise and keep it realistic, but also be able to be reactive. But the fear is the same, becoming detached somehow and drifting away. And that's just one example. Even firearms would behave differently in space. Recoil and ballistics would also be different. People think about space as silent, but silence can mean danger. For example, inside of the spacesuit, there's a steady hum of the fan that's blowing oxygen over your face. The people at Owlcat Games did some research and figured out that vibrations caused by shots inside of a vehicle would translate to the hull and likely be felt through the mag boots.
We love the idea, but have to adapt it. Pure realism would mean almost no sound in combat. No vacuum, you hear more than Austiners do, but far less than in atmosphere. What you hear is what your character feels. Breath, comes, vibrations. The tension stays, and so does the fear.
The mission crews train for months, even years together. The commander is chosen first and sets the tone. Just like in the game, trust takes time and shared experience.
The ship is crew's home. To craft the right atmosphere, we focus on the smallest of details. Life in space changes tastes. Astronauts often crave spices just to feel such sensations again. On pink water meals created from what could actually be grown in orbit. And in the same spirit, you'll even hear your companions discussing food and ingredients on the ship. We hope that our approach to blending realism with gameplay considerations will make players experience something engaging and truly immersive.
Man, this actually looks like a game for them. Which is
Yes,
honestly...
actually, I'm very interested in it.
Yeah,
'cause
no. This looks good. I mean, because let's be frank. The other games are bad.
Yeah, the other games are yes.
They're all bad. Like, the
These are just top
Pathfinder,
sellers.
the fucking... I know, it's not even showing everything. They made more
New
than this, you little
releases.
fuck.
New releases would also show all.
But yeah, doesn't matter. Their Rogue Trader game is bad. They're fucking... Like, their balance for the games is so terrible. Like, the mechanics are... And if you've seen our stream on it, you know why. Because it's like, how does mechanics work? It was the Space Marine deadly? No. It was the stupid little bumfuck sniper. Because they just used the same mechanics. Which is honestly... Because Rogue Trader is such a terrible system. As a pen and paper, it's just ass. But the benefit is that they're actually making a real game now. And I'm going to say a real game because they're not just copying the fucking... D&D mechanic crap. They're actually making real game with actual mechanics. So there's probably a lot better chance that this might actually not be terrible. We'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be down
I'm very
to
interested.
it's going to be down to writing. Now, the one thing I must say, writing and narratively speaking, Owlcat Games pen and paper, or they're not pen and paper, their stories aren't good. Like the Rogue Trader story writing was bad. The Dungeons and Dragons ones, which I watched, I didn't play, those were terrible. Those were actually even worse. So I'm curious to see if they're going to actually like get some competent writing. I hope so, because what's going to make or break this game, because it is an RPG, right, is that this looks good on the surface. But if this doesn't have compelling and interesting characters with a interesting story and world. I mean, it's set in the Expanse universe, so they have the world sort of taken care of. But now they need to actually build on top of that. And that means the writing team can now focus not on the world building as much, because they don't need to worry about too much of that, because they won't have to make that up from scratch. They're using a pre-established setting. But they're gonna need to focus down on really hammering the characters and the overall story of what it is.
My immediate concern, and I think this is the case, is that it's based off the show, not the books.
Dang.
That would probably be how it
I've
goes.
heard the show is not
Minor
very
stutter.
good. As
So
it
the
went further.
show, yes, the show started off alright, but they were changing just arbitrary things from the books, and then they just kept doing that and kept doing it, and then they started basically making their own little fan fiction with this Expanse skin shoot. So
Yeah, because I heard that the TV show, the further you go, the worse it gets.
yep, that's all I've ever heard.
No, not the show, says Mythic. He's just saying now.
Yeah, case in point, when you were playing that Telltale style game or whatever, that was set in the Expanse, and I was just watching it, like I crashed out a little bit on that because of how the writing was, and it's like, oh, it's based on the show, and I was seeing what the show had changed. It's like, this is just a complete bastardization of the setting at this point.
The show only did good was the better language.
The Belter language.
Belter language. I don't know why I saw that as D. Yeah, following the TV show is going to be risky, right? Because it's very divisive. I know that much, especially amongst the Expanse community. So there's a couple things that this game's going to suffer from. The first thing, Owlcat needs to actually make a real good game for a change. They've never done it, but this needs to be their actual winner here. They're going to actually have to design real mechanics, not fucking copy some pen and paper crap and slap it into a video game, because that's lazy as fuck. And the terrible fucking, like, level design stuff. Oh my god. Like, seriously, I'm so glad I never played the other, like, the Pathfinder shit or whatever the fuck. Because, like,
They
those
overtuned it.
encounters
Oh,
are
yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
The encounters in Rogue Trader were fucking ass, too. Not only were they
They were
ass...
piezo level, like, bullshit.
It's
there's-
designed of you have to know the system and you have to know how to break the system immediately to start playing the game.
Man, I hate Rogue Trader
Yep.
so much, man. Oh, God.
Yeah, I remember hearing in one of their
So-
Pathfinder games, one of the early enemies you could potentially run into was a will-o-wisp. Those are not, like, beginner level enemies.
In Kingmaker, one of the beginning things throws you against it might be 2 trolls or like maybe even 3.
See, in the first chapter
yeah.
of Rogue
And if you
Trader,
have no
Definitely.
fire or
in
acid,
the first chapter
you actually can't kill
of
them.
Rogue Trader, when you go down
Because
to the
the
planet...
regen is too good.
Hold on a second. When you go down to the planet, there's like a Chaos Space Marine right at the end, and you have to fight him. And the Chaos Space Marine is laughable because he's just a little fucking dunderhead that you can knock around. But there's this one sniper on a ledge, and he's actually more deadly than the Chaos Space Marine. Like, their design's just bad. And that's all we need to say on that. So we're going to move on past them. But I'm genuinely optimistic that Owlcat Games might make something good, but I'm not going to hold my breath because stories that they produced haven't been good.
Yeah.
Like, the stories suck.
Also, they are doing a bit of a streamer tax on this.
But yeah, they
Not
are
even
doing
through
streamer
Steam,
tax.
mind you. You have to go to the website and buy a bundle, because they mentioned in the post of the devlog about, oh, you'll be able to see this game in the upcoming beta
I'm
that
not
you
going
can get access to if you have the special editions of the game.
So either way, moving on past that, like, the big thing is that I don't know. I've got this on the wish list. I think it's worth keeping an eye on because who knows? It could be Owlcat Games finally breaking into the market and making something actually that resembles a video game. Maybe. But, and it is nice that they're doing a lot of research here, but the big thing is that at the same time, you know when I mentioned, like, reaching out to people, like with Helldivers? I'll be frank with you. You don't really need to do that because all you have to do is read. You could talk to people, but most of these people, like, that do space stuff, like, they're already, how do I put it? They wrote everything down. So it makes me wonder if they're using funds and finances to hire these people on as experts and stuff like that, or are they actually these people being volunteers? Because if they're paying that NASA guy to talk, I actually give them a bit of a big downvote for that.
Yeah, we don't know if
Because
they are or not.
I usually just prefer to read. And honestly, you can just read everything. Because as a writer,
is
you
possible
spend
he's
more
just
time
volunteering.
reading. That would be good. But you spend more time reading than you do writing. And I know this from firsthand experience. I read more than probably most people do. Because you have to. It's never fun reading. It's usually logistical. So it's always like, how does a potato work? Or how does the chemicals... what's the fermentation process of making alcohol from a fruit? You know. Oh. But yeah, not a big fan of Owlcat Games. But I am willing to give them a second chance because I've only bought one of their games. And I didn't like it. It was really bad. So yeah. Hopefully
thing-
they actually make video game for the first time forever. What?
Hopefully. The other thing I wanted to touch on that you mentioned before about the importance of developers and whatnot actually playing their own game. I want to give an example for Terrestrial War.
Yeah.
Of when I write up.
Let's
or
not
think
talk
of
about
these
our stuff right now. Let's keep focusing on this.
Oh, well, I was gonna mention why it's important to actually test your own game.
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about my stuff in the same area, you know? Weird. So, we're going to move on to the next subject, and then we can circle back to that. Hence, I now understand where you got your profile picture from, and I hate you. Oh, that fully encapsulates you, doesn't it? All
It's
right.
only for the weekend.
So these are 2 things I posted are just announcements that
Chatfish is found.
people wanted to mention.
So yes, as a reminder, and I have mentioned it once before, and I'll mention it once more again, because I'm pretty sure I talked about this already. Transformers Battlegrounds is going to be delisted tomorrow, I believe, right? Or tonight.
At the end of December.
Or at the end of
That
December.
says right there.
Oh, wait. Hi, everyone.
You're thinking of Vermintide.
Oh, Vermintide.
Yeah.
You've got that mixed up. That's for the free thing. All right, wrong thing. So yeah, this is a game that's going to be delisted. It's another one of those movie license games that's going to just disappear to the wayside. Now, I don't know if this game particularly appeals to me, but it does not matter. Because guess what? Video games, regardless of quality, should be preserved. And movie license games tend to be get this crap the worst.
Yeah, they're like some of the worst to preserve because if like one of the entities involved decides they want to pull the license for it, it's like it just gets pulled everywhere. And it's like if you wanted to like archive it or something like that, it's just like, well, tough shit.
Also, Polydonics $5 says, and the construction encouraged annoying obstructive building placement. Hashtag same tags. Thank you for the donation. Very generous. You're a construction site. He's like, damn. He was talking about Dune Awakening, by the way. Yes, it did.
Yep.
When it came to the construction system, it was very, very goofy. And people could exploit it by just walling off certain paths and stuff, which kind of ruined the game pretty badly, in my opinion. When it came to like the building and stuff like that. Something you gotta be wary of. Especially in those MMO-style world-building games. That's what I mean when PvP and just like that MMO stuff is just a bad idea. On the surface, we gave them the benefit of the doubt, but at the end of the day, what happens every time we seem to do that? We seem to get bit. Ouchies. Well, yeah, back to the Transformers Battleground game. So, it's a turn-based strategy tactics game, pretty much set in the Transformers universe. I think it's based on one of the TV shows. I can't remember which one in specific. At least I think it is. And yeah, it's slated to be delisted. So, if you want it, or you're interested in this kind of stuff, you might want to consider grabbing it while it's still available. The Transformers Complete Edition is on a steep discount at 47% off for $29.60. And it's worth mentioning, and good job finding this, Blake, by the way, because these kinds of games usually get shafted pretty bad. It's usually the movie license game. Not always, but keep an eye on those movie license games. Like the Battlestar Galactica one got delisted. You can buy the games on key sites now, but key sites are incredibly expensive. You're better off fucking, torrenting that shit, honestly. No, just because it's so nightmarish to find.
Like some of the older ones that I'm familiar with, like some of the AVP games, where like some of them you can buy, but others you can't. So if you didn't get it at the time, get bent.
Yeah, because you can still acquire the keys. There's like $60 a pop. And it's like, fuck no. Like, Jesus. Like, and does the cent of that even go to the original studio? Nope. Not a penny.
Single dime.
Not a penny. So yeah. I don't know. This sucks. This is not good news. Again, video game preservation, unfortunately, hasn't caught up to help the movie license games. So yet again, another casualty lost to the winds of time. And because no big yub numbers are probably going to talk about it, who knows? Maybe there are some. But it's also not even going to be like remembered, which is a bit of a shame. Another game lost to the ethers. Oh well, chat. Can we get an F in chat for poor Transformers Battlegrounds? They're about to go to heaven, chat. They're about to meet God.
Cybertron.
They're gonna transform and roll out.
Autobots roll out, and they roll into the fucking abandonware shed.
Just roll off a cliff.
No.
Final seat
That's
of
a lot of
Terminator just
DLC.
into the fucking smelting factory.
But yeah, so that's that. Is that everything?
No.
wait,
Just
yeah,
the Vermintide.
This is the one you were thinking of that closes
Vermintide 2. Yes, this is what I mistook. I got them backwards. Vermintide 2 is currently free, and if you go on Steam right now, listen to me closely, Chatfish, you can basically click on it and you own it forever. Vermintide 2 is actually pretty decent. Unlike Darktide, it's got a lot more personality and identity. Darktide is just very...
The characters are actually characters.
Yes, the characters in Vermintide 2 are actually... Vermintide 2 is a knockoff of Left 4 Dead. I think it's all right. Its biggest...
It is a
Its biggest problem,
knockoff.
though, is got to be the weapons and progression system.
Oh, yeah, that was...
Where it's like, you just open
bad.
chests and stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, ooh, yeah.
RNG upgrades. It's like, come on, something for Inquisitor. No, it was the soldier. Or the elf. or the
I'm
pyromancer.
just not a big fan of the progression system for Vermintide 2.
No, I get you.
But other than that, ignoring that, it's worth at least a run, which is about a couple hours of gameplay. So, pick it up, grab it. It's free. Play it with some buds. Have a good time. There's really no reason not to, in my opinion, regardless of any criticism that you could have. It is free, Can't argue with that, can you? We could try. Remember the 3 Transformer 3 PS game? And they were fun. You're fun, Terratine. He's like, whoop. Is Transformers Battlegrounds even worth picking up? I don't know. I've never played it. And I likely never will. I don't know if it particularly appeals to me. It's a turn-based tactics game, but not in the sense that I'm particularly interested in. I do like Transformers, but I prefer Transformers more for Cybertron. Like, I prefer those 2 games. If that makes sense. I like those 2 games. That's like the 2 things I like from Transformers, by the way. Because I haven't really engaged with other media in the setting. But I think those games are awesome. I'm probably not playing. I'm not going to waste the money on it. But thank you for suggesting it. But I do mention it because somebody might in our audience care and might want to try it. Or pick it up.
If chat does want you to play it, they have to fund it real quick.
All right, so that, I think, wraps up the Bunchcast quite adequately, I hope. I think we got through everything. Is there anything Chumpus and little Handsy Pansy has to say? Chumpus may now say his piece. I wanted to distance myself from that game after I said my negative piece. You may now talk about my game. You may not talk about...
I don't want to.
No, you have to, because I just brought it up into public. So say it, Chumbus. Or I'm going to turn you into Lambus bread. Did you know, by the way, that the Chumbus nickname, by the way, every time I think about it, I think you're a little piece of bread wrapped in like a leaf. You're Chumbus bread.
Uh-huh.
One bite of this can make a man full for 3 days. How many have you eaten? 3.
Yeah, Chumbus bread. He is Chumbus bread.
Basically,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to state that why it's important for people to actually play the game they're working on is I'll think up changes and we'll make changes, balances, and mechanics. And I can think I know how it works, and I can even have testers potentially tell me oh yeah, it feels this way. But almost every time I sit down and actually play it myself and test out things, I figure out something new. Oh, this isn't quite what I had in mind for it, even on feedback. So it's super important for you yourself to actually play it, because if people are telling you, oh, it's good, or oh, this works, it's you don't really have an idea of how it feels until you actually do it yourself.
You're absolutely right.
And every time I've done that and sat down and I find out something oh, I can rework this slightly, do that something, and it always improves it.
Yep. The big thing is when it comes to video games, it's all about making sure that you actually play it, right? Because you understand it. We could spend all day, chat, if we ever got a fund for it, to just spend a stream designing a hypothetical game, and we could design the shit out of it, and we could design it quite thoroughly. But the one thing we'll always be missing, no matter what, is we're never going to be able to test that theoretical design. Because it's easy to talk about mechanics. It's even easy to think about how it would work, actually. But what's difficult is to see it in action. This is where usually it's a lot more difficult, because in order to see it in action, you need it to actually be playable. This is why the tabletop war game for our stuff is a lot easier for you to see feedback right away, because you can just play it. Versus the video game, when Robin and I introduced the stability mechanic or the force systems that allow you to shove things around, the hard part is okay, these were on the document to be put into the game. However, it's just a piece of paper. You know what I mean? We think it will work out a certain way. We think that the players will shove characters out of buildings and shove them into walls and knock them over and do stuff like that. But we don't actually know, do we? No, we don't. You know why we don't know? Because we haven't gotten testers to test it. We are in the closed prototyping stage. Once we're done with that, we do the closed testing. And what's closed testing? That's when you start to get genuine feedback and people start playing it and oh, this works really cool, I really like this, or oh no, this really sucks, I really hate this, and like that's when you start to figure out stuff like that. Or it's like, oh my god, I fucking can't stand this one mechanic where like you can attack like multiple targets like that. I hate it so much. And it's like, okay. And then you look at everyone else and you see like what they're saying and how things, and then you start making course corrections. And that's the stage that you make course corrections usually when it comes to a video game. And the benefit of a tabletop game or pen and paper game is that you can make a mechanic and almost instantaneously begin testing it right away. You don't need to wait for code or anything to be made to basically put it together because, well, it's a tabletop mechanic. The two differences fundamentally between these two different subjects, a physical board game or tabletop pen and paper versus a video game, is that a video game can handle all the calculations behind the scenes, while the tabletop, the players must do them manually. This is why when I was criticizing Owlcat Games earlier, I was talking about that. Because when you're making a video game, your video game has more powerful tools than a pen and paper ever could and ever can. You know why? Because it can calculate and process all those calculations at a faster rate than which a person can do it, because it's all machine calculated, right? And the benefit of that, what's the benefit? You get a relatively seamless experience. So you can simulate, arms, legs, hands, fingers, toes. You can simulate more stuff than you can in a tabletop, because there are pens and papers that track all this information, but they're not very fun, because usually you spend more time working through each individual piece and part than you do actually doing anything else. And so it starts to feel very, very gamey. And what that does is it pulls you out of the immersion. So that's one of the downsides. The trick with a tabletop and a pen and paper is it's a mixture of like immersive and simulated aspects to the best of your abilities, but not too much, because the more stuff you add on, the more time the player's going to spend doing calculations, the less time they're going to be actually playing the game. And what's going to happen is that as that calculation time period goes up longer and longer, people stop playing and spend more time doing numbers and number crunching. And then all of a sudden, people are taken out of the world. The less number crunching, the better. But too little, and then it's bad, and there's nothing at all. You get systems like that in terms of the Masquerade Bloodlines modern game for the pen and paper, or the modern VTM game, pen and paper game, where it's basically, combat's just sort of like all simulated on one instance, and there's no actual combat mechanics. And that's the opposite end of the spectrum now, where you've streamlined it so much that now it's just not even interesting. And so it's like, okay, you need a mixture and a balance of mechanics, not too much, but not too little, so that there's room for role play, but also room for, mechanics and stuff like that. Benefit of a video game, you can have as complicated mechanics, like shoving people around, having people stand upright and stuff like that. Like you can have all sorts of stuff. But if you do that in pen and paper sense, it gets a little bit, clustered. Tell that to the Helldivers devs. I did. I don't think they'll listen, but I did. We did, technically. It's up to them to listen. That's just the thing, right? And they have to choose whether or not to listen to our feedback or somebody else's feedback or whoever's. That's up to them. I have done nothing but teleport Chumbus for 3 days. Wait, I've done nothing but teleport Chumbus for 3 days? No.
Team Fortress 3 reference.
Okay. I thought I was like
from the comics.
I thought I was gonna say I've had nothing but Megady Chumbus bread for 3 stinking days. Megady Chumbus bread.
If I'm a bread that really changes up one of your favorite quotes of butter spread over too much chumpus.
Butter spread across too. It feels like butter spread across too much chumpus. Josh is like, what the fuck? How's that make you feel, Chatfish? Sad or depressed? Press 1 for sad. Press 2 for depressed. Chatfish are pondering the biggest thinkies. Chumbus is both. Chumbus is both. There's also an episode of it, Rapier. Terratine says, not comic. It was from one of the official videos. Now chat's debating which official thing it came from. But yeah, also, like I want to say earlier, by the way, because I saw Finkar and you like Rogue Trader. If you guys like Rogue Trader, see what I mean? That also goes back to my other point in the stream. I don't always like every game. Like, I'm not a big fan of Owlcat games. But you guys might like it. But I've got my reasons why I think they're big stinkers. But if you like it, just because I don't, there's nothing wrong with that. You can like whatever you want. It does not matter if I like it. It never did. It does not matter if Chumbus likes it. It never did. The only thing that ever mattered was what you liked. Because it's about that. That's when it comes to video games. We all choose the games we want to play, right? And what we want to buy. I don't buy Owlcat Game stuff because I usually find them garbage. But some people like them. But there are some things that I think are less subjective, because that's more of a some of those opinions were objective, like the bad level design. But there are some things that are subjective, right? But there are other things that are objectively true, or objectives. And one thing is like Dune Awakening isn't doing well. Helldivers 2 is lying to people. That isn't really a subjective take. That's more like a you need to stop doing that because it's gonna kill the game kind of take. You know what I mean? Like it ain't good, Chatfish. Another thing we didn't know about Cubs, says Doug. Damn. Mango lad. For example, I like No Man's Sky. Kebs keeps shitting on it. And that is okay, but it makes me very inky. No Man's Sky is shallow, but there's a lot of stuff to do in it. And if you're looking for a game to just, you know, take up your time, there's a lot of stuff to do in there. There's nothing wrong with that. My biggest complaint and grievance with No Man's Sky is the fact that I feel like they'll add a patch and then it'll be like, oh, we added like capital ship battles, or we'll add like underwater things. It's like, oh, that's cool. But then they never add more mechanics for that, is what it feels like. Or like the capital ship battle's like super simple. It's like dreadnoughts or whatever. Like they'll shoot each other and it's like, it's the same thing. Like it never gets more patches, it never gets expanded on. And so it's got the width of an ocean, right? But the depth of a little puddle. In some areas it's a little deeper, but in some areas it's super shallow. And that's what annoys me about some games. I don't like having super wide games. I like having super tall games. And this is when it comes back to subjectivity, right? I like things that it doesn't need to be, what's the word? Like Prey 2017 and Dishonored or System Shock is an example of this. It's an example of a very tall depth game. And it's not very wide, though. You can't go that wide with it. There's not that much other stuff beyond the core mechanics of the game. But because it's focused so much on those core mechanics, it's got this super tall amount of depth to it. I really appreciate games like that. And it's all a matter of subject, and that's more a matter of taste. That is not an objective opinion. That is a subjective opinion. Because that is subjective. Some people like, tall cakes. Some people like, wide pan cookies. They both have their value. Terratine says, well, Kib says his fave is Fire Warrior. Well, Terratine, you owe me $50 billion now. He's like, ooh, that'll teach you to ever fucking say that shit to me again, boy. Like the underwater stuff. Was it Second Ed? Second Ed, or you like the underwater stuff? Or you like the underwater stuff? Didn't No Man's Sky pulled a comeback Cyberpunk style? See, this is the part where I'm going to disagree again, right? So, in my opinion, Cyberpunk, I wouldn't mind playing it again because there are parts of the game that are good. But I think Cyberpunk isn't good.
I wouldn't say it's good.
This is where I'm going to have the hot take, because look at how out of touch I am. Holy shit. I'm so out of touch and I'm funny. 94% of current reviews is 94% positive. That's almost overwhelmingly positive. That's very high. And it's on an upward trend at 85% in total, right? I think Cyberpunk 2077... Oh my god, it looks so woke. I think Cyberpunk 2077... Sorry, that character was so ugly. But I think it's one of those games where it's got some cool ideas, but I think it fundamentally has a bad story. And I think there's an objective opinion, I think, here. I think the main story is bad. I think the side quests are actually the good parts, and I think the main story is bad because the main story is about Johnny Silverhand and not about V.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue, is that he, either because the writers caved to his requests or because he joined the project, they changed everything about it. But regardless of what happened, the shift in focus to Johnny Silverhand instead of V is a big issue with the story.
The game feels jarring because Johnny Silverhand's supposed to be there all the time, but he's like this annoying narrator all the time. I don't know. And it's one of those things where this can work in some cases, but it can also not work in others. Terratine nails on the head. Cyberpunk is not your story, it's Johnny's story. Yes. But it's not at the same time. It's your story when it's the side quests, but whenever you play the main story, it's Johnny Silverhand's story. And this is the issue I have with the marketing. Look at this picture here in the top right. Who's that character in the top right there? That isn't Johnny Silverhand, that's V. Now let's take a look at this cover art here for the Ultimate Edition, right? These characters here are proportioned as side characters. They are not main characters at all. They are side characters. V is again, female V here, is again portrayed as the main character. This is a fundamental misunderstanding with what the game is. And it's again, if they had marketed it honestly, where they made Johnny Silverhand equal parts to V, because I don't think he's actually the only main character. I think V is also, but I think it's just really, it should just be Johnny and V, because it's really just a story between those two characters. And that's kind of like the crux of the story. The commitment and to basically making it so that like no matter what ending you get is shit. Like no matter what ending you get is shit. The best ending you can possibly get, where you go with the government and the government helps you. The government, even they helping you, is like, yeah, we were able to save you, but you can never be modded again. And then the game goes on to lecture you at the end and say, it's basically the worst possible outcome. I'm literally unable to be modified, and so my life is miserable, and I wish I had just died. Honestly, fuck you, player, for choosing this ending. You should have just killed yourself.
Do you know what's really
what
funny with that? Do you know what's really funny with that ending? The entire point of the story is, yeah, you tried to crash and burn, but here's the issue. Burning takes a while. And so it's like, if you try, it's like, let's not do this. It's like, yeah, fuck you. You should have chose the ending where it's like, fuck this system, and then just continue to push until you just completely burned out. It's like, okay, whatever. It's stupid.
By the way, CD Projekt Red, speaking of news, we do know that Cyberpunk 2077 2 is in the works. However, I have concerns. While I can still kind of enjoy Cyberpunk 2077, and I do want to play it again, maybe modded a bit, and just focus on side quests, one thing that I need to inform you chatfishes about that is concerning is that CD Projekt Red has been exclusively hiring people from woke companies, people from Concord, specifically in leadership positions, and they're being put in charge of positions in Cyberpunk 2077. So I think CD Projekt Red is dead. They're basically
actively hiring.
They're literally hiring people from Concord, and specifically not like the artists or anything, but leadership people who made those decisions.
The people that made Concord the way it is.
Yeah,
It's not just Concord.
it's not just
Every big woke game that flopped. They're hiring
so
people.
what's
picking 'em
happening
all
is
up, yeah.
basically the worms that got into CD Projekt Red got into a high enough positions of power. They're basically hiring their friends. Is how it comes across to me.
Yep, and so I figured I'd let you guys know that so that you just level your expectations for the new Witcher game and the new Cyberpunk game. I would not be overly enthused, if that makes sense. Just go into it with a skeptical eye. I mean, I remember being lambasted when I said we should be... I was actually. When Cyberpunk 2077 was fucking announced, I remember being like, this is sus and there's some suspicious things going on. I literally got lambasted by everybody around me for fucking saying that I think this game's going to have issues when it comes out. And I was right, by the way. But either way, that's besides the point. A little bit of skepticism is never bad. Worst case scenario, you were skeptical, right? Best case scenario, that's the best. Actually, no, that's not the worst case. That's the best case. Worst case, you were right. And you know what? You saved like $60. That's the worst case scenario. Best case, you spent $60. You got a great game. You know what I mean? See? It's not all bad, chatfishes. You got to keep your chin up and smile. Jan25 posts Bucks and says, when your endings range between kaput yourself and flip burgers with some off-screen space heist in between, yay, hashtag fit, hashtag black and white 2 redux. Yeah, it's just like, ugh. Cyberpunk 2077. I'm going to say it one last time because I've said it before, and I'll say it again if we ever play this game again. But I think the missed opportunity of this game was the beginning of the game. In the beginning of this game, when you first meet he dies. What's his name? I don't know.
The
guy,
Spanish-speaking friend.
Yeah, your friend character. You meet your best friend. When they have the montage of you basically meeting his family, Jackie, yeah. You meet Jackie, and he just has a montage, and then he dies, and you're supposed to be sad about it. I hated that. Because I wanted that, like, the game that I saw in the montage, of you learning Jackie, meeting his girlfriend, meeting his like mom, getting to know them, becoming friends with him, and going on like stuff and doing stuff together felt great. And the mission that you do with Jackie should have been the ending for the game, in my opinion, where Jackie dies. And maybe you die too. You both die in a glorious heist. And it's like this sort of like sad sort of ending or whatever, right? That's what the game should have been ending wise. It felt like Jackie's story was supposed to be way bigger. And he got sidelined because of Silverhand. And that's what it felt like to me, at least. It really felt like Silverhand should have been like a thing that you got in your head, and then you had to rip it out, and then you killed him, and then that was the end of it. Or you didn't, or something like that. And that was the bad ending. Rather than it being like all focused on Silverhand. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. I felt like we were robbed. We were robbed of a story that would have been actually good. V and Jackie getting up to shenanigans, doing stuff together. Oh well. GOG is thing that's worthwhile. What? Oh yeah, good old games is. GOG is like the only thing good coming out of CD Projekt Red. But I will point out, disgusting. That I will point out that GOG, while it may be what's the word? Around right now, and it might be getting funding, that if CD Projekt Red doesn't do good, I feel like GOG will get like its funding pulled or stuff like that. Because GOG is really good, but it needs way more resources. And CD Projekt Red is honestly one of those companies I want to love, but they want me to hate them at the same time. Because they seem like this little underdog Polish company you want to root for, but then they do things that are just like really questionable. And it's like, why are you doing that? Like, GOG represents the best force in the industry besides Steam in terms of positive change from a corporate side. And that's important because a corporate side means somebody who actually has pushing power. And all these games in here that they basically got to run and like restored and protected, because you can't hardly find any of these games I'm showing you right now. These are the games I own, right? Look at all this stuff. Look at all this stuff on GOG that was basically preserved. This is good. This is what I want to see from video game preservation. I want to see more. I want to see way more of this. This is actually good change. But my biggest issue is, and worry, is that if, the new Cyberpunk stuff doesn't do good, or the new Witcher stuff doesn't do good, they're just going to pull that funding from GOG and in turn shove it into, fucking their failing games. You know what I mean? Ugh. Polymathy, $25 say, I had friends that hated that. It was all bad endings, but they couldn't realize that the game story was just bad overall. I mean, the problem with Cyberpunk 2077 is the story isn't bad overall. It's got good parts in it. Its biggest problem it has is that its primary story for the Johnny Silverhand is weak. It feels ramshackled and forced, and that's because it is. It should have not, like, Johnny Silverhand should have been some sort of character that you bumped into, and he's a side quest. And that was it. You got him stuck in your head for a bit. It was a scare. It seemed like you were going to lose yourself, but you managed to get it out. And Jackie basically rips it out of you and is like, dude, I got you. And then he like crushes it. And then like, that's it. That is how you handle that. That would have been way better. In fact, it would have been a great story arc to have it be where maybe you switch perspectives and you play as Jackie because you're incapacitated because that thing is like fucking destroying your brain. And Jackie saves you. And then, you as you open your eyes, you like see Jackie's hand. You take his hand, he pulls you up. He's like, "I got you, buddy. He's your buddy. He's your bro." But they didn't do that. They just kill him off. Just kill him. You know what I mean? Like, talk about what a waste of a character. Oh my god, it annoys me. I feel robbed. I'm what we call a Jackie sympathizer. All right, Jackie deserved better.
I thought he was annoying.
I hate you. I like Jackie. He is that annoying. Yes, he is annoying where he randomly throws in Mexican words in his statements, and it's a total Hollywood trope. You are absolutely right. But my God, I prefer him over Johnny Silverhand.
That is a dialect, but like only in like California or San Francisco and places like that.
Very pretentious areas, yes. And again, you can tell it was written by somebody who is not from the United States because nobody talks like that. Jackie Chud. Jackie annoying, yet the only character with charisma. He had charisma, even if he was annoying. Jackie seemed like a cool bro. I was honestly mad when he died. Yes, I was too. because I'm like, oh my god, you just killed him off, and I didn't even get to know this character because they had. Maybe we got to do a bunch cast on that when they talk about it, or maybe we should do it at some point. But like the missed opportunity of Jackie's character, holy shit, Jackie could have been somebody. Jackie could have been the bro character, the guy who had your back, the guy who pulled you out of fire, who was your best bud. Johnny Silverhand never does that. He just whines and bitches at you for half the game, and then
You should fight the corporate overlords.
and then he sort of somewhat kind of respects you, not really, at the end if you choose a certain path or two. Oh fuck, I hate it. I hate it so much. Sniper Commando, do not give up. We will show you how. You're just not following the instructions. You're just a little chatfish. He is. He's being a little chatfish. But I do think that that wraps up pretty much all my thoughts on that point. So let's read. Want a better chip? Stays in his head, revives him, and has to grappa with it, and you help him. Suddenly, you don't just desperately try to survive. Well, yeah, the big thing is having Johnny Silverhand be the thing that's killing you is dumb. So I need to pepper my speech with more Mexican words if I want to annoy Kibbs. Good to know. Fincarn, you may be Mexican, but that doesn't absolve you from your taco slave duties. He's like, no, taco slave.
And yeah, Czar, like that's what I was basically saying. Like it is a thing in specific areas, but most of it's like California, and then like other places that are like heavily like that.
But yes, if you have any issues with getting... Oh, by the way, next stream is Unreal Tournament 2004 community event. I linked the details of what you need in the description of the stream. You need Radman and that, and it's pretty simple to get it running. Just follow the readme.txt. If you have any concerns or things, just ask in like chat. Like, it's pretty simple. You just need to copy and paste the root directory into the text file edit for the registry, and then run the registry after that. Once you run the registry, then you can run the game, and you're good to go. So yeah, that wraps up, I think, everything for this Bunchcast. It's a bit of a shorter one, but there wasn't all that much to really talk about that we hadn't covered already in the fireside. Like I said before, we're going to try to make the Bunchcast more focused, sort of like what we did here. So good job, Chumbus Bread, and good job, Hans. You brought good subjects, and you had excellent points today. And fantastic points, in fact. Wonderful. Pinches the little cheeks. Like, and, yeah. I think this is going to be the new format. Our fireside chats, we had one this week. We could have had two, but I decided to just sort of roll everything into this because otherwise the Bunchcast would have even less stuff. So it's a balance of fireside will be mostly like breaking news, and so Bunchcast will be, you know, more focused on big subjects. There are several big subjects that we have to talk about, so it's really just a matter of picking which one by its importance. But yeah.
It'll be Unreal Tournament 2004, Sonic Nitro.
Yep, it's linked in the description of the next stream. So I will see you guys in the next stream. We will all play together and we'll have a good time. It just won't download. It'll complete circle and not finish. Okay. Sniper Commando, DM me on Discord and I'll fix that for you. Super easy fix. You'll be good to go. All right. See you guys in the next stream. Goodbye.
See ya.